So today...
What's up, guys? Today
is an exciting day because I get to chop up Paris's Aria.
you're not chopping the f***ing thing up, you're just cutting the stem, Max. You make it sound like it's going to the dump for kindling.
Paris has got herself a new set of integrated handlebars and we're going to fit it to her Bianchi Aria and get rid of some of the stems. So we're not going to quite slam it fully, but we're going to drop a little bit off the bottom and swap out her current bar and stem for new one-piece bar and stem, but we can't make it integrated. We'll get into it all today. Let's go.
What do I do now?
I have to keep filming.
What?
Yeah.
No, this is where I can put it on a window ledge.
You're literally in the bare minimum.
Do I pause it and then start it again, or do I keep filming?
No. So, let me show you this new...
I actually think you speak better to a camera than you speak to me. Like, you care more about talking to a camera than you do me.
Well, yeah, but the camera doesn't give me grief 24 hours a day. So Paris has got herself a set of Winspace SL0 integrated handlebars. Her Aria is actually mechanical, so that's one thing we've got to kind of pay attention to, because it means that we can't use... Look how nice these are.
Should I just upgrade to Di2?
Yeah, if you've got Di2 then this would look a lot cleaner because you'd only have 2 wires. Anyway, so we're upgrading to an SL Winspace handlebar. These are 95mm stem and 380mm wide. Exactly the same as what I have on my Winspace.
I think so, yeah.
And the other thing we're going to do is just chop a little bit off her stem, which means I get to cut her carbon fork post. So first thing we've got to do is actually go and get a hacksaw, chainsaw. A chainsaw.
Yes, a chainsaw, correct terminology. A chainsaw.
So we need that, but we might need to get some more... We might need a blade that has more teeth.
Why?
Because we're cutting
Why can't you just buy
fibers.
Why can't you just buy this one, for instance?
That will not cut carbon fibre.
How do you know that?
For cutting a tree.
Okay.
You got 118, 2 at 24 and 1 at 32. We need a 32. We need 32 teeth per inch. Objective 1 achieved, which is we have a saw that Paris is financing. So the nice thing is, when I first thought about doing this job, we were going to try and run a few of the cables up through the integrated part of the stem and then out the top. Obviously it's a slightly older model Aria Bianchi and there's just no way to...
I mean, it's an older style.
Well, the head
This
tube...
is the latest one they do.
It's the last one they do.
Yeah, it's the latest
retired.
and the last.
It's retired.
Don't say retired.
So we basically, long story short, we can't run the cables up and through, so it's still going to have the cables out the front. But the nice thing is that it means that I don't have to worry about trying to pull out all the cables on the levers. I have to take off the hydraulic cables for the brakes. I don't have to pull out.
Okay.
I don't have to pull out.
And I don't have to worry about Max ruining my bike.
I don't have to pull out the hydraulic cables for the brakes or the gear cables or the gear cables. So that's the nice thing is we can basically just pull the levers off and swap it out. So what do you reckon, like 40 minutes? You're bored already, I can tell. Like...
Yeah, if you could do it in 10, that would be great. I'll chuck you an extra 20 quid if you can do it in 10.
You're not paying me at all.
I'm paying for the materials.
What do you think of the bars though?
I think they're sexy, they're gorgeous.
So actually,
gorgeous.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the stem off the old bike without actually removing anything, and we're going to put the new stem on just to see how it looks, and basically adjust the spacer height to see whether actually riding with 2 spacers is possible.
My issue is that I commute on this bike, so I think I'm concerned. I'm just concerned about the weight on my back. I have to carry a lot of shit with me.
You're the weight on my back.
It is a hefty situation, but I'm just a little bit scared about chopping it down.
The first thing we're going to do is remove the old bar and stem so we can put the new one on, just so we can get Paris on the bike so she can have a feel for what it's actually like and the height. So we know that if we chop the steerer tube down, we're not going to chop too much off. To do this, just remove the bolt from the top cap and then the 2 side bolts from the side of the stem, and then you should be able to pull it right off and just chuck the old one on. You do have to take the bike out of the stand though, so that the wheel can sit on the floor, and then the pressure from the bike pushing up will make sure it's all correctly seated, so there's no surprises when you cut the stem. So this was the main issue, is that because this isn't, do you see what I mean? This is what I was talking about. This is all your spaces around and your...
Oh, I see. Yeah, but that's even if those 2 aren't in there, that's still going to look funny, is it not?
Yeah, it would look funny no matter what. Yeah. Unless you got a different... I mean, you couldn't even...
But you can't, yeah.
You can't, so...
I don't think I'm that bothered, am I? Or does that look stupid? It looks a little bit dumb. Do you think it looks really dumb? It doesn't look neat, does it? But am I bothered by it not looking neat? Is it going to look better if I take those out though?
What, and just slam it?
Yeah. Should we try it?
But let's bear in mind also, your frame is a 50, which is too small for you anyway, so that's why there's more spaces in there. Because you bought this without knowing how to buy a bike. It's good that you clean it as well. The fact that you keep it in such good conditions, like...
Yeah, it's actually like totally spot. It's mental how clean this thing is.
Yeah.
Crikey.
You must spend hours, like, after every ride.
More than hours.
Cleaning it.
Days.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
It hardly looks ridden.
Yeah. Almost brand new, I'd say.
Would you want to get on it and see whether that fits?
I mean, it doesn't feel that different.
That's 2 spaces out.
Do you think we just slam it? Should we just do it?
Should we see what it's like?
Max, I feel like I'm about far. Oh, I hate this!
We did decide to slam the bars and remove all the remaining spaces, just so Paris could jump on and see how that felt. But it was always going to be a bit unlikely that we're going to chop the steerer tube to this height, given that the frame is too small for her anyway.
I just feel like I'm going to fall over.
Just put your feet up.
Like I'm trying.
Why is my nephew, who's 4, better at riding a bike than you?
Why does it not feel that much lower?
Because you're leaning onto my shoulder and not the bars?
No, I don't think I can do that. Start commuting and realise I've ruined it, and then have to start commuting on the gravel.
That's not ruined it, that makes it sexy and trendy.
I'm sexy anyway, so it's fine. No, I will commute after one... I will commute after one day. Look at me! I will commute after one day, and my back will probably be in bits, and I will realise that I've done something stupid.
Okay, this is boring, let's get to the action. Cue the music, let's go. We decided to go with just the 2 spaces, so we weren't going to completely slam the bars. First thing we needed to do now was make a score mark on the steerer tube so I would know where to cut. One of our big mistakes though was that we didn't actually remove the bar tape and the levers from the old bars, so that was going to be a bit of a hassle as we had to go back and try and remove that whilst the bars weren't actually on the bike. Now we're actually going to try and do this without removing any of the cables from the levers. So the tricky thing was going to be that we're going to have to try and cut the stem whilst the levers were still attached to the front fork. This was a little bit tricky, but it was going to save us time and hassle in the long run, because I didn't want to have to remove one of the hydraulic cables from the front brake lever. So ultimately it just meant that we were basically going to have to use the area directly around the bike while it was in the stand to cut the front stem. Once we got the tape off the old bars and managed to remove the levers, we were pretty much good to go. All we had to do was remove the bearings from the headset, which we were then going to clean up and re-grease for later when we put them back in the bike.
What's wrong with you? No, Max!
So this is my secret hack to cutting down a steerer tube without having a guide. Lots of people talk about using stems or using 2 stems to bolt onto the steerer tube as a guide, but then people talk about how it ruins the stem itself. Obviously these are quite old, so I'm not too bothered by that. But you can also use spacers. So get some old spacers, set it up, drop a spacer in like that, set another one up the other side, set another spacer, and you effectively end up cutting between the spacers so you don't touch the stem at all. Genius little extra tip for a way to cut your steerer tube down. If you have a stem, you won't ruin it, you ruin the spacer. So we're also going to try and do this whilst we don't disconnect the brake cable, which is probably a bit silly, but it's going to save us, well, hopefully it will save us time in the long run. I am absolutely convinced that anyone can cut down their own steerer tube, so don't be worried if you are giving it a go for the first time. I'm using 2 stems to do this, and I have spacers in between them. It's simply a guide, so leave a bit of space between the 2 spacers, and the whole point of this is just so it doesn't come out completely wonky and then your bung doesn't fit properly into your steerer tube. As you can see, you are just cutting between the 2 spacers, and the 2 spacers are held together by the stems that are wrapping around the steerer tube. I had Paris hold the other end for some help. Look how good that actually comes out. It's a dead flat cut, that's all we need, and then any rubbing goes against the spacer and then not the stem. So in theory, you can just use that stem another time, you haven't ruined it. Give it a quick blast with some sandpaper and you are good to go. Right, now we've kind of cleaned up all the headset bearings, we've cut the stem down, time to kind of put it all back in, drop the bars on, and then we're going to worry about fixing the levers to the right position and taping up the bars, which you said you will do because you're better at it. Okay, no. Moment of truth now to figure out whether I've cut the stem to the right length. It was a good time to show Paris's Bianchi a little bit of love, so we cleaned up and then re-greased all the headset bearings and then threw them back on. This was going to make a little bit of difference, and probably the only time Paris's bike has had a clean in at least a year. We chuck the bung back in and do it up lightly, then we throw the spacers on, followed by the bars and then the top cap, and we do it all up lightly just so the fork doesn't fall out of the frame. That's perfect.
Is it though?
Yeah, because it needs to be a little bit below that cut for the top cap to put it down in. One of my favorite things, the torque wrench. So I think everything kind of gets, we're going to go with 5.5 Newton meters and then have a look online and see whether anything's suggested to be anything higher, but usually 5.5, 5 to 6 Newton meters, so 5.5 is usually like a safe kind of torque rating. So we're going to whack the wheel in, get it off the thing, get the levers back on. Once we put a wheel in it, we'll put pressure through the top end and then that will compress it all down and we can tighten all the bolts up to torque spec later, but now it's time to get the levers back on. The nice thing is that we haven't had to take any of the cables out, haven't had to take out the compression cables for the brakes either, which is just chef's kiss because it's made it so much easier. You might be wondering why I am making such a big fuss about not having to undo the cable on the front brake lever. Quite simply, it meant that we weren't going to have to re-bleed the front brake if any air got into the system. Not removing any of the levers or any of the cables at all made this whole job so much simpler. If we were going to try and run these up through the integrated section of the bars, we would have had to have removed the gear cables, which would mean running tubing through the entire frame so that we could then replace the cables afterwards. it just would have taken maybe an hour or even 2 hours extra just removing and then replacing the cables afterwards. We were actually just using the old bar tape that Paris had taken off earlier. Luckily it wasn't super sticky, so it was quite easy to remove and very easy to then rewrap the bars with. Paris was very particular about how we do these, and she made me redo it a whole bunch of times until she was happy. Also, seeing as these bars are narrower than her last ones, there is a little bit excess cable, so in theory we probably should have shortened a few of the cables, but again, like I said, it would have taken this job, which took us about an hour, and turned it into maybe a 3-hour job, taking all the cables out, cutting them down and then replacing them. So this way it was a lot easier, and I'm sure Paris can live with it, being that it's her commuter bike. Pretty much done, so we're going to torque everything up to spec, and then we're going to send Paris out for a test ride in 40-mile-an-hour winds to see whether it holds up.
No, thank you. I do like it. It definitely does look nicer.
Brakes work? Both brakes work?
Yes.
We're all set. Everything should be done, taken care of. Paris, sign us off, please.
What do you want me to say?
Please like and subscribe to The What Life. Tell them how good it is.
Please like and subscribe to Paris's channel when she gets it started.
Paris.
Like and subscribe to The What Life.